This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. If you've been putting in the work, trying to grow, trying to evolve, trying to build something meaningful, but lately you've been wondering if any of it is actually leading anywhere, don't go away. Because today we're going to talk about one of the most important elements of any build, preparation, and how to build your bridge to success. Because one thing all successful builders know, they know that success begins long before anyone sees the results. I'm Penelope Bent, and this is Build It Baby, the show for dreamers who are doers, those that are building their businesses, career, and life by design. So let's do this. Let's build it, baby. You know, I think one of the hardest things about building a business, a career, or your life is that moment where absolutely nothing appears to be happening. After you've put in so much hard work, you've done all the learning, you did the planning, you're showing up every day, all the decisions and the systems are in place, and yet externally, very little is happening. This is that very special moment in your build that might just bring you to that unwelcomed crossroads. You know, the one that says, what the hell, do I quit? Was I wrong about the idea or the direction? I'm just not feeling it. I'm not seeing the movement, the final piece. How do I get there? I know, because I've gone through it. I cannot tell you how many times. And I'll tell you, this just may be the most important phase of your life, when things look unproductive from the outside. But in reality, internally, you've come so damn far. You've put in the work, you made changes and adjustments, you're in alignment. I mean, think about this for a second. Your mindset is just clear as a bell. Your confidence, you've established some resilience, you have amazing discipline, you've found your emotional strength, your communication skills are superb, and your capacity has grown. You have the capacity now to build and to receive. You're ready. You're ready for success. You want success. You have finally accepted the idea. Yep, I can do this. I can create my own business, and finally, I will have financial and emotional freedom. You can almost taste it. You have finally found your calling, your purpose, your perfect alignment, and yet nothing, no clients, no money, no movement. I think many delays in building a business, career, and your life are not due to your lack of effort, but to the very fact that you may have failed to construct one of the most important features of your build. And that is your bridge to success. Because so many people often ask, why isn't anything happening yet? And my response to that is how much of your build has been in creating and preparing for your success. And this is where the dig your ditches idea comes in. I think there's an ancient story, perhaps in the Bible, about people preparing for rain before rain actually arrived. And for some reason, every time I reach that, oh my God, I'm ready. I got it laid out there. I got my head in the right place, and, nothing's happening. Nobody's banging on my doors to buy my product. And that's when it reminds me, well, have you been digging your ditches, girlfriend? So did you dig your ditches? Have you prepared your ground? And have you created the space for the water? And the water will come. And I always thought that that's exactly how builders move through life. Builders do not wait for certainty before preparing. They prepare because they believe. And you know what? They believe in something greater is possible. They finally have the knowing. They finally have that true faith in their idea. And that faith, by God, that faith is powerful. And I get it. I get it. I know it requires courage. But successful builders understand something many often miss. They prepare before the opportunity arrives, not after. Why? Because they prepare for its arrival. They make space for the abundance. They get their head into the idea that, the opportunities are coming in. I need to prepare. I need to make sure that I'm well organized. I need to get all the nonsense off my calendar that doesn't need to be there. I need to make sure that I have built the infrastructure required to accept this flood of revenue or clients or whatever the case may be. Maybe that's just the difference between hoping and building. Hope says, I wish something would happen. Building says, I'm freaking preparing for it now. I know my success. The opportunity is on its way. That's a completely different energy. And I've seen this over and over throughout my entire life. I've watched people spend years quietly preparing, and then one day the big opportunity arrived, and suddenly everybody called them lucky. That wasn't luck. They've been preparing for a long time for this big moment. And they weren't lucky. They were ready. There's a huge difference there. And that invisible work, that's where the real transformation happens. I think one of the most dangerous things people do is underestimate the power of preparing for success. Preparing for success, it's almost this sacred moment. That's where the roots grow. That's where you create your internal and external foundation. And roots matter because eventually life tests everything. Pressure tests it. Growth tests it. Responsibility tests it. And if the roots are weak, things start collapsing. I've seen businesses grow too quickly and fall apart because there was no infrastructure. There was no organization, no plan for how we were spending the money, no phases, no, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 as we move along. I've seen people get promoted into roles they were, quite frankly, emotionally unprepared to hold. And I've also seen talented candidates lose opportunities because they stopped evolving. They didn't prepare. And I've also seen the opposite too. I've seen people quietly strengthening themselves for years, improving their communication skills, improving their presentation skills, and I'm all about that, improving their emotional intelligence, improving consistency, improving discipline. And when the opportunity finally arrived, they were prepared. And that sure as hell is not luck. That's construction. That is preparation. They were prepared for their own success. They built a boat and sailed it toward their success. They didn't sit on the shore and wait for their ship to come in, their good fortune to arrive. Nah, they prepared for it. They built their bridge of faith and they walked toward their success. And I think right now this needs to matter more than ever because we are living in some seriously uncertain times. We know that industries are changing quickly, technology is changing quickly, hiring is changing quickly, business is changing quickly. And the people who survive and grow are often not the loudest folks, but they are people who are prepared. They're prepared emotionally, strategically, financially, and mentally. Builders prepare early. It is part of the creative process. Smart, in tune, intuitive builders know they have to be before they are. And what does that mean? It truly is actually really simple. And I use this path more times than not. It means you have to become the owner. So remember when I mentioned telling the bus driver when he asked what I was, taking the bus down to Sausalito over a holiday weekend because the traffic was so bad I didn't want to drive. He asked me, what do you do here? And he was the first person I ever told that I had started an online magazine. So as I told him what I was building, it was my ownership of it. You need to become the owner of your build long before you make your first dime. You have to dig your ditches. You have to review, maybe select an office space, see it, feel it, trust it, knowing your company will soon be signing the leasing papers. I mean, there has to be a moment when you have to see the success and you have to physically and mentally prepare for it. Organize, is it, are you going to be working out of the home for a while? Do we need to clear out the guest bedroom and make that a temporary office? Am I going to have some contracted folks coming in that are going to help me build this company? So I need to, go find some creative, unique additional desks. Do we need to turn that into our corporate office? What do we need to do to prepare for the success of the business? And I think at the same time, you have to think about this sucker as thriving. Practice your offer presentation. Sell your product to every friend that do a run through. Know exactly how you will ask your client for their business, for their money. What is your wording? I remember thinking to myself, when I put this kind of paperwork or brochure together and I would walk the client through each page, I knew exactly how I was leading up. I was giving them choices. Was it, plan A, B, or C? And I know by experience, 90% of your clients will always take plan B. They like the middle of the road one. Not the most expensive, not the real limited product that you're offering, but that one that's right in the middle. That's the one that you want to have the largest, profit margin on. You build it that way. So you need, I would practice how I would go through the whole process with, my fake client that I was talking to, and then how I would get to the point where I would say, how do you want to handle this financially? Would that, was that going to be a credit card, or was that going to be, did you want to make out a check? How would you like to handle that financially? I love how I say that. That just used to just kill me because I was always so uncomfortable about the money. And I don't think I'm the only business owner that is uncomfortable about that. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to. They don't want to ask for money either, but you have to kind of build a pathway in there so you can get to that money piece. You don't want them to have to ask you, well, so how much is this sucker going to cost? You want to be able to introduce them to a couple of different offers that you may have, a variety of what they may purchase from you. I mean, organize your bank accounts, get your LLC set up or whatever, your S Corp. If need be, if that's easier. But do all that paperwork. Why? Because you're preparing. You're digging your ditches because by God, it's going to rain. And you need to prepare for that money to be floating in. Real success is almost always built quietly in your head first. That really matters. That's ditch digging. That's preparing for the rain. That's signaling the universe that you're ready. You are open for business. And I really do think that's where your bridges to success, I think that's where they're built. They're built one decision at a time, one habit at a time, one disciplined choice at a time, one brave action at a time. That's how bridges are built. They're not built overnight. They're built plank by plank. And maybe today, instead of obsessing over where you are not, I suggest you ask yourself, what systems or attitudes or beliefs do I need to put into place to receive my good fortune? What financial systems or structure do I need to create? What additional skills or procedures have I maybe perhaps I need to fine tune or strengthen a bit? Because your future life requires that you build your future version of you. Now, this doesn't always have to just be applied to building a business. Perhaps this is about preparing for the job that you want to receive. You've had interview after interview, but nothing seems to be happening. Well, have you prepared for it? Are you maybe looking into the details of how AI is impacting the technology that you're perhaps applying for? I mean, are you digging additional ditches by taking a few additional courses, getting a few additional certificates? Because you know that the money being spent now is a drop in the bucket compared to what you're going to make. Maybe you're close to your master's. Maybe, you during this time of a slow job market, maybe that's the time to sign up and spend those few extra bucks and get your master's. I mean, are you digging your ditches for success? Are you prepared for the rain to fall? Those are questions we need to ask ourselves as we move through life, regardless of what we're creating. And I said this before, you need to be before you are. You need to become that person. That has to happen before the opportunities will appear. It doesn't happen after. And that I think is a real surprise for folks. Oh, I'm going to become blah 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 when I get that job. I'm going to have a successful business once I get that first client. Nah. You're going to become exactly what you need so that you can really speak to that first client or really move, have much smaller ramp up time for the new job. You're going to prepare. You're going to prepare before. That's what preparation really is. You need to be before you are. You need to be the successful business owner before you are. When you are out and about, you need to have that business card. And when someone asks you what you do for a living, you say, I own so-and-so. Oh, how's that going? It's absolutely fantastic. We're receiving new opportunities every day. That's your elevator pitch. Do you have that down? Are you prepared for that? Well, you better get started, my friend, because you've got to be before the rain's going to fall. You have to believe strongly, as it's so strong in your future, to build for it now, even without proof, especially without proof. And honestly, in my experience, I think that is one of the purest forms of faith there is. Preparation creates a structure which creates the freedom to receive. But you've got to create the faith and have it in order for the doors to open up. When you believe so deeply in the arrival of your success that you build and you prepare for it, that simple act of preparation combined with the mindset, combined with your confidence, combined with your belief, combined with your faith, Trust me, your doors will open and your success will flow in. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. Okay, so here are my knowings. Number 1, I know that preparation changes people before success ever does. Number 2, I know that structure creates freedom. It opens the doors. And number 3, I know that delay does not always mean denied. So those are my knowings, and I know those deeply. Okay, it's time for listener question. And this is from Sam from New Jersey. So here's Sam's question. The job market has been so tough and crazy lately. I am thinking about changing my career path. Okay. Well, that's an interesting one, Sam. Yes, I do agree with you on the job market. It is very unique right now, and it certainly is a bit crazy. But the first thing I would say is this. Please don't make any permanent decisions from temporary panic. The job market is shifting, industries are shifting, companies are shifting, and yes, sometimes those shifts are absolutely a sign that it's time to evolve. But before you jump into an entirely different career path, I think it's important to ask yourself a few honest questions. Are you truly misaligned with your current field? Or perhaps are you just exhausted by the environment that you're currently in? Because, Sam, those are two totally, those are not, they're not always the same thing. Sometimes people don't actually need a completely different career. Sometimes they just need either a different company, perhaps it's a different leadership, cultural leadership. Maybe in your situation, it's a different role. Maybe there's something else within that same segment that you could possibly look for. You might even consider that you need to go at a different pace. Maybe it's not as full tilt boogie band. Maybe a role in the same field, but with a little bit more flexibility. Or is there a different way of using your skills that you already have? And I think then you have to ask, is life pushing you toward a reinvention? But I don't believe reinvention should come from fear alone. I don't think it's a win-win. I think it should come from just being aware. Instead of asking yourself, what job can I run into? I think there's a bigger question here that I would like to suggest, and that is, what kind of a life do you want to try to build? I mean, maybe that's the moment right now that's the bigger question. Because your next move should support whatever that life is, not just temporarily, not to just relieve a little bit of anxiety. I also think that at this moment where people need to stop underestimating, transferable skills. These skills move across industries far more than people realize. So I think, take a look at, what are your strengths there? Is it communication skills, presentation skills? Are you great at solving problems? So before assuming you have to start over completely, I really would encourage you to look at what you could transfer with you, what you could take, what skills do you have that could move forward. And finally, you don't have to burn your entire life down to begin changing direction. Sometimes the smartest move is just to test a new direction, keep applying in the field that you've always been in or that you've been in for the length of your career. At the same time, still looking at other directions. And then, you're not going to get away without me saying this. I'm really big on maybe taking time as you're applying for the career path that you're in to looking at what's a possible business side build that you could make. What are those great skills that we talked about a few seconds ago? Could you translate those into helping others on some additional projects? I don't think now is the time to be leaping without giving this a lot of thought. I don't want you to leap because of fear. I would prefer that you move forward with intentionally building. One, I think when you come from a position of strength, of confidence, I think your life will take on a much more successful trajectory rather than coming from panic. And I always say, if it's not feeling right, and there might be some other ideas that you might have swirling around in that brilliant mind of yours, I would really encourage you to look at perhaps building something of your own. I don't think anymore the leap from being an employee to becoming an employer is really that dramatic. Because you don't have to be the employer of 1,000 people. You can be the employer of one, you. So just remember that a great build does not have to be this complicated, gigantic build. There's ways to build businesses that will bring in, the same revenue stream that you had working as an employee. Because one, you're going to get a hell of a tax break just being able to be self-employed. So anyhow, Sam, thanks so much for the question. Great question. I hope things go well in New Jersey. And don't hesitate to reach out to me if you're thinking about, building another business or even with this career path. Reach out on my website and we'll set up a chat and I'll help you navigate through it. But great question, and I wish you the very, very best on that one for sure. Well, it's that time. Thank you for listening to Build It, Baby. I know many people are waiting for the rain, but builders are already digging their ditches. They're preparing for it. This is all part of the creative process. It is the energy that signals to the universe, I'm ready. My ditches are dug. Now rain like hell. Always best, P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original. Hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashin and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or a career, you're building a bold life.